Hello and welcome to the podcast. This is Ron's Amazing Stories. We have stories that should thrill you a little and chill you a little.
It's amazing.
What you'll hear are adventures sent in by you guys, classic stories from the pulp mags, and episodes from the golden age of radio. We have special segments like Ghost Stories with Sylvia.
That's amazing.
And These Are Your Stories. So settle in for the next hour and enjoy the show. One more thing. You just might want to prepare yourself to be taken away from today.
What's that you say?
Hello and welcome to the podcast. Today we have ourselves a theme. I'm going to call it The Way Out There Science Fiction Extravaganza. We have two stories from you that are, while not sci-fi, they are out there. One comes from Cambodia and the other hails from the Philippines. How about that? Our featured story comes from the science fiction OTR series, Dimension X. It's titled The Man in the Moon and is definitely out there and is sci-fi. But we're going to get things started with my thoughts, which this time are definitely out there and are, well, sci-fi adjacent. Let's get started. The other day, I thought. Science fiction has always been a playground for the imagination, a realm where spaceships hurtle through wormholes, aliens sip cosmic lattes, and robots ponder the meaning of life, preferably without attempting to exterminate humanity. But how much of this fantastical world is rooted in actual science? And where does artistic license take over? This is a fascinating paradox which I call warp drive meets duct tape. Many sci-fi concepts are grounded in real-life scientific principles, albeit stretched and molded to fit the narrative. Take artificial intelligence. While we haven't reached the level of sentient machines yearning for existential fulfillment yet, the rapid advancements in AI technology make sci-fi predictions seem less like fantasy and more like a potential future. Also, space travel, a cornerstone of sci-fi. It is firmly rooted in scientific endeavor. Although we're not zipping through galaxies at warp speed, our probes have ventured beyond our solar system and humans have walked on the moon.
Conspiracy and the attempt to foment insurrection.
Okay. Science fiction often takes these existing realities and extrapolates them, imagining a future where interstellar travel is as commonplace as ordering a pizza.
We'll eat frozen pizzas all day.
I know.
All day, every day.
Of course, science fiction wouldn't be nearly as fun if it were constrained by the rigid laws of physics. This is where artistic license comes in, allowing writers to bend, twist, and sometimes completely disregard scientific realities in pursuit of a good story. I call this the duct tape principle. Need a faster-than-light travel method? No problem, invent the warp drive. Want to create gravity on a spaceship? Just throw in some artificial gravity generators. And who needs pesky things like conservation of energy when you have laser swords that can cut through steel? The beauty of sci-fi lies in its ability to walk the fine line between plausibility and pure fiction. A good sci-fi story often takes a kernel of scientific truth and builds upon it, creating a world that feels both familiar and yet fantastical. However, sometimes the line gets blurry. Remember those teleportation pods in Star Trek? While the idea of instantly transporting matter across vast distances is captivating, the actual science behind it is mind-numbingly complex and potentially impossible. But hey, it makes for good television. The clash between science fact and fiction often leads to humorous situations. Imagine aliens arriving on Earth with technology that can manipulate time and space, only to be baffled by a toaster oven. Or picture a futuristic society where robots perform complex surgeries but can't figure out how to open a jar of pickles. These scenarios highlight the inherent absurdity of trying to predict the future, reminding us that even the most advanced civilizations will still struggle with everyday problems. Science fiction at its core is a beautiful paradox. It's a genre that thrives on both scientific accuracy and imaginative freedom. So the next time you're watching a spaceship zoom past a black hole or witnessing a robot engaging in a philosophical debate, remember to appreciate the delicate balance between science fact and science fiction. After all, it's a unique blend that makes sci-fi so captivating and entertaining. Well, those are my way out there thoughts for this time. I hope you found them entertaining. All of these ideas expressed in this segment are mine and fall under the Unstable Expression Copyright Act, and are therefore subject to ridicule or praise, as the case may be. Feel free to offer feedback and any thoughts you might have on sci-fi and its place in our world. I would love to hear from you. Today's podcast is brought to you by Audible. Get a free audiobook and a 30-day free trial at audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. The prairie wind whispers secrets through the tall grass. Secrets only I, Enoch Wallach, seem to hear. Folks in these parts know me as a recluse, a man living alone in a weathered farmhouse that's seen better days. They call me Old Man Wallace, and they whisper their secrets about me. Strange lights seen at night, the way I never seem to age. The lack of visitors crossing my threshold. They ain't wrong. Truth is, my house ain't just a house. It's a way station, a stopping point on the cosmic highway that stretches across the vastness of space. For over 100 years, I've been the keeper of this lonely outpost, tending to the needs of weary travelers from stars unknown. I've seen creatures beyond imagining. civilizations that make human history look like a fleeting spark in the darkness. I've learned secrets that would shatter the sanity of most men. But this ain't no tale of glory or adventure. At least, not in the way that folks usually think. It's about the burden of knowledge, the loneliness of being a bridge between worlds, and the struggle to hold on to your humanity when surrounded by wonders and horrors of the universe. It's about what happens when the galaxy comes knocking at your door and you have no choice but to answer. So, what was that about? That's my way of introducing a novel called Waystation, and it is our Audible review for this time. Waystation is a classic science fiction novel written by Clifford D. Simak, which won the Hugo Award for Best Novel in 1964. Here is an exclusive introduction by award-winning author Mike Resnick. He's going to introduce Waystation and its author.
Hi, I'm Mike Resnick, and I'd like to tell you a bit about Clifford D. Simak and his classic novel, Waystation. Cliff was a newspaper editor for most of his adult life. He started writing science fiction on the side in the 1930s and was still at it half a century later. Along the way, he won a batch of Hugos, including a Best Novel Hugo for Waystation. He was the third man ever to be honored as a Nebula Grandmaster, and was one of the very few to be twice named Guest of Honor at the World Science Fiction Convention. Cliff was an optimist, not the Robert A. Heinlein type who thought man was the toughest guy on the galactic block and could conquer any obstacle. In Cliff's opinion, man was the nicest guy on the galactic block. He simply believed in the essential decency within all of us, human and non-human alike. Waystation is the story of Enoch Wallace, who is not buried in the grave that bears his name, who did not die in the Civil War, or at the turn of the 20th century, or during the time between the world wars. And although this is a star-spanning novel, most of it, and all of the important parts, take place in a very private section of Enoch's house. Enoch would seem to be a solitary man. He has only two friends, his mailman and a sensitive girl named Mary with a very special gift. Well, let me correct that. He has only two human friends, for Enoch is far more than the solitary, long-lived man he seems to be.
As mentioned, this Audible original tells the story of Enoch Wallace, a seemingly ordinary man living a solitary life in a rural farmhouse in the mid-20th century. However, Enoch harbors an extraordinary secret. His house serves as a way station for interstellar travelers. In this classic, Enoch Wallace is an ageless hermit striding across his untended farm as he's done for over a century, still carrying the gun in which he had served in the Civil War. But what his neighbors must never know is that inside this unchanging house, he meets with a host of unimaginable friends from the farthest stars. More than 100 years before, an alien named Ulysses had recruited Enoch as keeper of the Earth's only galactic transfer station. Now, here's Chapter 1 of Waystation, which gives you some of the backdrop of the story. It is read for us by Eric Michael Sumner.
The noise was ended now. The smoke drifted like thin gray wisps of fog above the tortured earth and the shattered fences and the peach trees that had been whittled into toothpicks by the cannon fire. For a moment, silence, if not peace, fell upon those few square miles of ground where just a while before men had screamed and torn at one another in the frenzy of old hate, and had contended in an ancient striving, and then had fallen apart, exhausted. For endless time, it seemed, there had been belching thunder rolling from horizon to horizon, and the gouted earth that had spouted in the sky, and the screams of horses, and the hoarse bellowing of men. The whistling of metal, and the thud when the whistle ended. The flash of searing fire, and the brightness of the steel. The bravery of the colors snapping in the battle wind. Then it all had ended, and there was a silence. But silence was an alien note that held no right upon this field or day, and it was broken by the whimper and the pain, the cry for water and the prayer for death, the crying and the calling and the whimpering that would go on for hours beneath the summer sun. Later, the huddled shapes would grow quiet and still, and there would be an odor that would sicken all who passed, and the graves would be shallow graves. There was wheat that never would be harvested, trees that would not bloom when spring came round again, and on the slope of land that ran up to the ridge, the words unspoken and the deeds undone, and the sodden bundles that cried aloud the emptiness and the waste of death. They were proud names that were the prouder now, but now no more than names to echo down the ages. The Iron Brigade, the 5th New Hampshire, the 1st Minnesota, the 2nd Massachusetts, the 16th Maine. And there was Enoch Wallace. He still held the shattered musket, and there were blisters on his hands. His face was smudged with powder. His shoes were caked with dust and blood. He was still alive.
This is a terrific book, a classic that I'd never read before, but one that I'm very happy to have finally experienced. I think it holds up really well 50 years later. There is a wonderful sense of optimism in the novel that you don't often find in modern science fiction. I believe that Mr. Simak was a master. The narration is top-notch, and it made for a very easy, enjoyable listen. Our clip was kind of a downer, but the story is anything but. It keeps you saying things like, what could possibly happen next? It also had me saying, what if this is really going on right now? After all, the government says that there are aliens in our oceans right now, or at least unexplained happenings that make no sense. That kind of makes me wonder what Clifford would say about that. Now, if this story appeals to you, head to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories, and you can have Waystation for free. Here is what Audible has set up for us. They are offering a free audiobook in 30 days to give you the opportunity to check out the service. You can stream or download thousands of included audiobooks, podcasts, and Audible originals in the Plus catalog. There is so much to do at Audible, you're never going to run out of material. So, to download your free audiobook today, go to audibletrial.com/Ron's Amazing Stories. You'll be glad you did, and you'll be helping me out in the process. Thank you, Audible. And now, here are some stories sent in by you for you.
These are your stories, sent by you, for you.
Our first story comes from Sokum, who lives in Cambodia, and I had to do some translation on it to make it work. I sent the rewrite to Sokum and was told that I didn't get it right. Never had that happen before. I took a second run through and sent it out again. This time I got the thumbs up and I present it to you. Sokum has titled this story, Night Ride Through Kandal. It was June 2023 when I returned home from a vacation spent camping in the forests. Arriving at my apartment in Phnom Penh, Cambodia at 11 p.m., I suddenly realized I had lost my key during the trip. My cousin, with whom I was staying, was visiting his mother's house 18 kilometers away, so I decided to ride a rental motorbike over there to retrieve the key. As I rode through the quiet streets of Kandal province, I passed a funeral ceremony, but didn't think much of it. I was too tired and eager to get some rest. After about 30 minutes, I arrived at my cousin's house. His mother insisted that I stay the night, but I politely declined, feeling it was too late. On my way back, I crossed the same spin near the funeral. I don't know what it's called in English. Editor's note, a spin in English is called a bridge. As I approached, I noticed what appeared to be a human sitting on the corner of the spin. As I got closer, it vanished into thin air. Oddly, I wasn't scared. Continuing into the city, I passed a pagoda and saw a girl dressed in pink walking ahead of me. Her body seemed unusually large, but I kept my distance, not wanting to make her feel uncomfortable. As I rode past, I glanced in my rearview mirror, only to find that she had disappeared. I looked back, but there was only darkness surrounding me. Still, I felt no fear. Finally, I arrived at my apartment around 12:30 a.m. A cool breeze touched my body, and I started to tremble. Suddenly, a realization struck me. I had encountered two spirits that night. The figure on the bridge was likely the soul of someone that had passed at the funeral. And the girl in pink? She was a Ting Mong, an entity believed to be a spirit that dances at pagodas during religious ceremonies. Maybe my aunt insisting that I stay was the good choice, but those spirits didn't make me feel scared, so I think they were good. But I'll never ride a motorbike at night again. I swear. Sokum from Phnom Penh, Cambodia. Well, Sokum, thank you for sharing your story with us, and thank you for teaching me some of the Cambodian language. Our second story comes from the Philippines and was sent in by RAS Bautista. He has titled his story, Whisper in the Orchard. It was supposed to be a fun night. 14 of us had gone to my friend's native village, where he had a farmhouse deep inside a mango orchard. The place was perfect, quiet, away from the world. We were drinking, laughing, and enjoying ourselves, unaware of what was about to happen. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. We thought it was the wind. One of our friends got up and opened the door, but there was no one there. We laughed it off, thinking it was just the alcohol messing with us. A little while later, the knocking came again, louder this time. We all froze. No one wanted to open the door. Then we heard a voice come from outside. "Brother, it's me, Ramana. Open the door. It's so cold." None of us knew anyone named Ramana. We were strangers in that village. But we thought maybe she was the farm's caretaker, or someone local. One of us opened the door again. A blast of icy wind hit us, colder than anything we'd felt before. It chilled us to the bone. But there was no one outside. No footprints. No sign of anyone at all. Panic spread through the group. We ran outside away from the farmhouse and lit a fire to keep warm. We huddled around it, terrified, waiting for the night to end. As we sat there, we could hear something moving in the darkness around us, quick and quiet, like it was watching us. The night dragged on, every minute feeling like an hour. We stayed by the fire, too scared to move, waiting for the sun to rise. At dawn, we packed up quickly, wanting to leave the place as fast as we could. As we walked through the village, we saw a crowd gathered around a house. Curious, we stopped and asked what had happened. One of the villagers looked at us and said, "Ramana died last night." We stood there, frozen in shock. RAS Bautista, the Philippines. Okay, that is quite the story. Thank you for sharing it with us. Ghost stories are common in Filipino culture, and many families have their own accounts of supernatural encounters. Usually these stories are passed down through generations, but sometimes they are presented here at Ron's Amazing Stories. Well, that's it for this time. If you have a story that you want to share, head to the main website at ronsamazingstories.com. Click on the story submission banner, leave your story, give it a title, and please tell me where you're from. I'll read it if I can. Our featured story comes from the OTR series Dimension X. It is titled Man in the Moon and was an original story written by George Lefferts. The Bureau of Missing Persons are in the process of putting out a radio broadcast of a missing person when they receive an SOS from the moon. Now, do you remember when you were young and how your elders would tell you bedtime stories about the man in the moon? Well, this story is a different kind of story to tell about him. It is a story of suspense in an unknown world of the future where anything can happen. It is titled The Man in the Moon, and I think it's going to surprise you just a bit. It first aired on Dimension X on July 14th, 1950.
Adventures in time and space, transcribed in future tense.
On stage tonight, Dimension X, another in the Wheaties' big parade of exciting half-hour presentations.
Do you remember when you were young, how your elders would tell you bedtime stories about the man in the moon? Well, tonight we have a different kind of story to tell about him. A story of suspense in the unknown world of the future, where anything can happen.
Attention. Attention. This is the Federal Bureau of Missing Persons calling all local agencies. Attention. This is a coded report nationwide. Missing since 9 o'clock this morning the following persons. Smidgley Jonathan, 5 feet 8 inches tall, brown hair, brown eyes, mastoid.
Hello.
Hey, get off this wavelength. This is a restricted band.
Hello.
Look, whoever you are, you're on a coded wavelength. Now tune out. This frequency is reserved for the Federal Bureau of Missing Persons.
Hello, Earth. This is the moon calling Earth. Hello, Earth.
This guy's loony. Transmitting room.
Jake in transmission.
Jake, this is Charlie in the code room. Some crackpot's on our frequency.
Yeah, I heard him, Charlie. I've got CQ trying to trace it now.
Yeah, well, hurry it up, will you? Some ham's in for a good stiff fine by the FCC.
Well, they ought to take his license away. Oh, here comes Lenny with a directional fix. Yeah, Jake. I checked it 4 times. Why, this is impossible, and you know it. I can't help it.
Hey, what's going on down there? How about it? Get that ham out of my killer sight.
Listen, Charlie, that interference is being beamed from 240,000 miles away.
Oh, now, Jake, you know there ain't no such thing as 240,000 miles away.
Oh, yes, there is, Charlie. Straight up.
Straight? Hey, now, wait a minute.
Charlie, that signal's coming from the moon.
Are you nuts?
Somebody might be bouncing it like a radar signal.
Radar on this frequency? Where did you study basic radio?
Listen, flathead, you asked for a fix. I gave the best fix our instruments can find. Now take it or leave it. Somebody on the moon is calling the Bureau of Missing Persons.
Mr. Timken.
What's the sweat, Charlie? Shouldn't you be broadcasting?
Now, listen, Mr. Timken, you know I'm a sober citizen, right? Never once have I broadcast with the smell of alcohol on my breath, right? In all your 12 years here at the Bureau, did I
What's the matter, Charlie?
We're picking up a message on our wavelength.
Well, did you report to the FCC?
I ain't got the nerve.
Well, what's wrong?
You'll scream when you hear this, Mr. Timken. You'll jump right out the window, but we are getting an SOS from the moon. That's got it. Started on voice and switched to Morse.
What did he say?
Let's see now. Can you read me? Help Otterburn. Will contact when the moon is in phase.
Otterburn.
Sounds like a name.
Otterburn. Otterburn. Holy jumping Jehoshaphat.
Hey, where are you going?
To talk to the chief.
Hey, now, wait a minute. What are you going to tell him? We just got a CQ from the man in the moon?
That's exactly what I'm going to tell him, Charlie.
What? Oh, no. This is too much for me.
Washington Star-Ledger.
Let me have O'Brien on the city desk, huh?
One moment. O'Brien speaking.
Seamus?
Yeah?
This is Charlie Starbuck down at the Missing Persons Bureau. You want a hot one? No kidding. This'll cost you a beer, okay?
Shoot, Buck. I'll stay in your wavelength for 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay. We just got a radio message from the moon.
What?
From the moon.
Call me back when you're sober.
Okay, Seamus, if you don't know a story when you see one.
I'll send you the name of a good psychiatrist. So long, Orson Welles.
Orson Welles? Hey, how do you like that? He don't believe me.
Otterburn, Mr. Wade. Does that name ring a bell?
You're the man with the photographic memory, Henry. What about Otterburn?
Cornelius Otterburn, atomic physicist, reported missing from his home in Baltimore on June 5th, 1945, just 5 years ago. Vanished completely.
Are you trying to tell me you really think there's something to this man in the moon business? Henry, I'm surprised at you. This is some crackpot trying to jam the airwaves.
But the name Otterburn is so unusual.
So are a lot of names.
But, Mr. Wade, I have a theory.
Henry, you always have a theory.
But, Mr. Wade.
Out, Henry.
Mr. Wade.
Out. I'm busy.
Yes, sir.
I'm sorry, Henry. Oh, here, take this folder of reports for the death file.
Oh, yes, sir.
And no more nonsense, eh, Henry? I appreciate that you have a very dull job filing old missing person reports, and I appreciate that you take an active interest in the affairs of the Bureau. But, no more nonsense, hmm?
No, sir, Chief. No more nonsense. Oh!
Pardon me. Are you Mr. Henry Timken?
That's my name.
Permit me, Jefferson Philo, scientific feature writer. May I have a moment of your time?
Certainly. Just sit down at my desk right over here.
Thank you. My, that's quite a stack of papers.
Filing. I'm the records custodian of the Bureau. 12 years and never misplaced a record.
Magnificent. Now, Mr. Timken.
Yes?
Mr. O'Brien, the editor of the Star-Ledger, said I might drop by and investigate a rumor. Only a rumor, mind you. That a message from the, moon?
Well, we aren't certain it's from the moon. It may be a bounce. They have bounced radar waves off the moon, you know.
Yes, I know. I wrote the first newspaper article on it.
Oh, really? Well, I'd be interested to read it.
I must have a copy in my briefcase.
Well, don't bother.
Oh, but I insist. There you are. I'll leave it on your desk.
Well, thank you very much.
Now, about this message from the moon, Mr. Timken.
Well, we don't know for sure, as I said, but I believe that this message, wherever it originates, is from Cornelius Otterburn.
The physicist?
Oh, you know him.
I once wrote an article on his contribution to nuclear mechanics. A brilliant man, Otterburn, years ahead of his contemporaries.
Well, whoever is sending those signals, if he isn't on the moon, is at least using the moon as a sounding board, bouncing the signal.
But why, Mr. Timken? Why?
Look here, Mr. Philo. If you will come here tomorrow night at 8, we may learn the answer to that question. I have arranged with Charlie, our radio man, to let me use the equipment.
May I consider this an invitation?
You certainly may.
Very well, sir. Until tomorrow night, then. Goodbye, sir.
Goodbye, Mr. Philo. Goodbye. Lackaday. Now, let me see now. Well, that's funny. Where did this list of names come from? Paul Aarons, astromathematician. Robert Simons, electronic engineer. Carl Parker, mining specialist. Oh, this must have got mixed up with the papers on my desk by accident. It's a peculiar list of names. Most peculiar. Good morning, Charlie.
Oh, hi, Mr. Tipkin. I see we made the papers.
Oh?
And how? Mr. Chief steamed up about it.
What did the paper say?
Mostly ha-ha. Here's the Herald.
Oh?
Oh, brother, what a panning.
Uh-huh. Oh, dear. Oh, my. No wonder Mr. Wade is hopping.
About tonight, Mr. Timken, I don't know.
Now, you promised you'd give me a key to the radio room, Charlie.
Yeah, but I didn't expect this.
Listen, Charlie, we've got to find out if there's something to that message. If Otterburn is alive somewhere and radioing for help, it is...
Hold it. Time for the morning broadcast. We've got quite a list today.
Well, do you mind if I listen a while? We may hear Otterburn.
Oh, I ain't self-conscious. Stick around. Attention. Attention, this is the Federal Bureau of Missing Persons calling all local agencies nationwide. This is a coded broadcast. The following persons are missing. Aarons, Dr. Paul, 5'5", brown hair, brown eyes, scar on left side of chin.
Aarons?
Thick glasses. Occupation, astromathematician. Missing since 6 o'clock this morning. Being sought by Bel Air police.
Charlie.
Repeat, Dr. Paul Aarons.
Charlie, shut it off a second.
Oh, now, listen, Mr. Timken. It's okay to stay, but you can't interrupt.
This is important. Now, what time was Dr. Aarons reported missing?
6 a.m. We got the report from Bel Air less than an hour ago.
Are you certain, Charlie?
Yeah, positive. What is this?
Charlie, what's the next name on the list?
Let's see. Simons, Robert.
What?
Engineer. Came in less than 20 minutes ago.
20?
What's the matter with you? You look like you've seen a ghost.
Nothing, Charlie. Except that last night, quite by accident, someone left a list of names on my desk, and that list included the names of those 2 men who weren't reported missing until an hour ago.
What? Yeah, that don't sound right to me.
It isn't right, Charlie. Which raises a question. Who would make up a list of missing persons before they were missing, not after?
And you say this list of names was left on your desk accidentally?
I believe so, Mr. Wade.
Do you have any ideas?
Well, it's hard to say. Mr. Philo left some papers from his briefcase.
Mr. Philo?
A science feature writer.
I see. You were the leak on the story, then?
Oh, yes, sir. I'm afraid I was. I didn't think it would be treated as a laughingstock. We'll deal with that later.
What's this Philo like?
Well, he's strange. Bald, thick glasses, tall, seems to know a great deal about scientific data, but being a science writer...
Is there any other possibility?
I don't know. But I do believe that this is all hooked up with the broadcast from Otterburn.
That seems like a very remote possibility.
A missing persons bureau deals in remote possibilities, Mr. Wade.
Henry, I do not require a statement of policy. What's the theory?
Mr. Wade, I have discovered that each year literally thousands of persons vanish, leaving no trace. They are never located. Where do they go? Nobody knows.
And?
And they disappear in interesting cycles.
What sort of cycles?
Occupations, for example. One year we'll have a run on, say, coal miners. Next year the proportion of engineers increases, then scientists...
What do you think happens, Henry?
I don't know, Mr. Wade. But I'm beginning to suspect that somebody else has discovered the same phenomenon. Even to the point, perhaps, of being able to predict who will turn up among the missing next.
Philo?
I don't know. but I would like to find out.
And you think Audubon may be a part of this picture?
I definitely do, Mr. Wade.
Henry, do you honestly expect me to buy an idea like that?
Well, it's more than an idea. The two top men on this list are missing.
Maybe so, but the rest of them aren't. Parker, Watson, Gibbs.
Well,
I saw Parker in the restaurant where I had lunch today.
Yes, sir, but
and if you think I'm going to make myself a laughingstock by putting any belief in such a crack-brained theory?
Well,
Excuse me.
Yes.
Hello, Wade speaking. Yes? Yes, I see. What name? Just a moment. Henry, let me see that list again.
Oh, yes, sir. Here you are, sir.
Go ahead. I see. I'll get back to you. I guess I owe you an apology, Henry.
Yeah. Sir?
Carl Parker was just reported missing.
Parker?
The third man on your list.
Holy mackerel.
Exactly. Henry, perhaps I've underestimated you. Maybe this time you really stumble onto something.
What do you intend to do, Mr. Wade?
I don't know. I haven't thought it out yet.
I was planning to listen for another broadcast tonight in the hope that Otterburn might try to contact us again.
I'll join you.
I also invited Mr. Philo, the science feature writer.
Well, I'll be glad to meet him. I'm beginning to get interested in your Mr. Philo.
Mr. Wade, you don't think
that he's mixed up in this? I don't know, Henry.
Mr. Wade, let's contact the police.
No, Henry, I think we're better off keeping this between ourselves for the moment. I don't want the police laughing at the Bureau if you're wrong.
I don't know, Mr. Wade.
Besides, there may be more danger than you realize. Let's keep it quiet. Shall we, Henry?
Yes, sir. I didn't realize there was any danger.
8 o'clock. Friend Mr. Philo was late.
He said he'd be here, sir.
Moon is almost in direct phase. You can't wait much longer. You'd better switch on the set.
Yes, sir.
I'll have to light in the hall for Mr. Philo when he comes. Are you getting anything?
Well, just some foreign stuff.
Programming from Johannesburg, South Africa. We continue in Africa.
Oh, no, dear. That's a very peculiar transmission sound. That sounds like something. See if I can work the selector here.
The moon is in phase.
Yes, sir.
Hello. Can you hear me?
I'll try to return. Hello? Hello?
Hello, Earth.
Hello, do you hear me?
I get you now. Thank God.
Who are you? Can you hear me? Who are you?
This is Professor Cornelius Otterburn. Hello?
Go on, I hear you.
Not much time. They're on to me. They've located my sending point. You hear me?
Go ahead, keep talking.
I've only enough oxygen for a few minutes more.
Well, where are you?
I'm on the Earth side of the moon. You get that? The Earth side of the moon. A volcanic crater.
Good Lord.
Start that recorder, Mr. Wade. Go on, explain, please. Explain, please.
Closely. There's an Earth colony on the moon. There is an Earth colony on the far side of the moon. Made up of renegade scientists and criminals. Professor Ernst Holtzman.
Holtzman, he died in an insane asylum in 1938.
Professor Ernst Holtzman discovered nuclear rocket power in 1935. Turned his plans over to escaped inmates of the asylum. They took off and set up a colony on the far side of the moon in 1938.
Go ahead. We're recording you.
Each year, they recruit new colonists from Earth. Slave labor mostly. Some women, scientists. The oxygen problem is a big one. I was kidnapped in 1945.
Yes, we know. Keep talking.
They wanted me to work on atomic drive with their flying discs. Hello?
We're still getting you. Go on.
6 others and I escaped.
Speak louder.
The charges left, getting weaker. We pulled what little oxygen we had. The others, dead now. Thank God I reached you. You've got to stop them. Stop them.
Stop who?
The moon colony, planning to take over the Earth. Listen, they have agents on Earth. Hear me?
Agents on Earth? Where? Who? Hello? Hello?
Agents in...
Henry, look out.
The light.
Someone at the window. Get down. Henry, are you all right?
I think so. Oh, his shot smashed the transmitter.
Strike a match. Careful.
Whew, that was close.
I gotta look at him. From the description, it was your Mr. Philo.
Well, we got a recording anyway, but not the most important part of the message.
Henry, we've got to get you out of here. You said they have agents. Philo's probably one of them. He'll be looking for you now, trying to kill you.
The police,
You
Mr.
think
Wade.
the police would believe a fantastic story like this? People being kidnapped to the moon as slave labor? Moon colony planning an invasion of the Earth? Henry, believe me, they'd clap us into straitjackets before we could finish.
We've got to do
We
something.
need time to get proof.
But we can't walk out of here. Philo's probably
We
waiting.
can only figure some way. Wait, I know.
How?
Listen. There's a service elevator that leads to the basement garage. My car is there.
Mr. Wade, let's
By the
call
time
the
the police
police.
get here, we'll be dead. You think Philo will wait outside all night? Come on. This is the basement. Come on. Keep to the side.
Yes, sir.
Shh. Here's the car. All right, Henry. You open the garage door, then jump into the car. We'll make a dash for it.
Where can we go?
I have a farm outside Chevy Chase. It's private, miles from the nearest neighbor and completely hidden by trees. We'll run for that. Go ahead, start the door up.
All right, Mr. Wade.
Quick, jump in.
Yes, sir.
All right, here we go. Cross your fingers, Henry. We made it out all right. Anything doing?
Well, there's a blue coupe behind us. It seems to be following.
I'll cut up Pennsylvania Avenue and out Route 1 toward Baltimore.
It is following. He turned with us. Can you go faster?
Not much faster.
He's gaining on us.
I've got an idea. Hang on, Henry.
Yes, sir. Why did you stop?
Turn off the lights, quick. It worked. He shot right past us. Now we'll double back and go out another route. I think everything's going to be all right now. We can be at my farm in less than an hour.
This place is really out in the wilderness, Mr. Wade.
You can stay here indefinitely till we figure out the next move. Just up this dirt road now, there's a big abandoned wheat silo on my grounds. It's down in a hollow where it can't be seen except from the air. And even then, the oak trees shield it. We'll hide you out there. Now we can leave the car here. We'll leave it to sink. Come on.
How did you ever find this place, Mr. Wade?
I've always liked seclusion. Came up here to get away from it all. There's the silo.
Well, it's certainly well hidden.
There's a small door around the side. Come on.
Yes, sir.
Oh, careful of those bushes. It's hard to see them in the dark.
Do you suppose Philo will find us?
I assure you, Henry, that Mr. Philo will never find us here. Not in a million years. Here's the door.
It's pitch dark.
Hold my arm. I know the way. Just a few steps up, then another door.
Yes, sir. Steel. This is an unusual silo. Double walls, wood outside, steel inside.
Completely fireproof. An army couldn't wreck it. We're inside the inner shell. Careful. You're in a circular room. Stay here a moment. I'll go outside and see if the coast is clear. In a moment, your eyes will become accustomed to the darkness. I'll bring back some food and water.
Well, don't be long, Mr. Wade. This place gives me the willies.
I'll just be a moment.
Yes, sir. Mr. Wade. Mr. Wade. I swear I hear something. Mr. Wade! What's that? There is something. Good Lord. There's someone in here. It's locked.
Oh, no. Oh, this must be a light switch. Oh, thank God. Oh, no. People. 10, 15, 20 of them. Mr. Wade! Help! Help!
Will do you no good to shout, Henry.
Mr. Wade, where are you?
Outside, speaking over the intercom.
Mr. Wade, there are people in here. 15 or 20 of them. They're sitting like statues just staring at me.
They won't hurt you, Henry. They've all been drugged. They're even more helpless than you.
Yes, but who are they?
Permit me to introduce them, Henry, since they're currently unable to introduce themselves. The gentleman seated before you is Dr. Paul Ahrens, the astromathematician.
Ahrens?
Next to him is Mr. Robert Simons, electronic engineer.
Names on the list?
Yes. They've all been recruited for work with Professor Halsman's group on the moon.
On the moon? Then you're one of them?
Of course. You'll turn around, Henry. You'll recognize the drugged form of your old friend, Mr. Philo.
Philo? But I thought...
That he was part of the conspiracy? No, on the contrary. His stooping made it necessary for me to include him.
Yes, but the man in the window, the one who fired the shots.
An agent of mine, the pilot of this ship.
Ship? What ship?
This silo is a camouflage for a rocket launching platform. In a moment, the roof will slide back for the rocket's takeoff.
A rocket ship?
In exactly 70 hours, you and your companion will join Professor Otterburn on the moon.
But you can't do this to me.
We have done it, Henry.
No!
You see, there was another name omitted from that list, which
No.
I carelessly mixed up with your papers. That of Henry Timken.
No!
Bon voyage.
I won't let you do this! You can't! Please let me out! Let me out, please! This can't happen! Let me
out! Attention. Missing since 8 o'clock last night. The following persons. Timken Henry, age 45, height 5 feet 8, brown eyes, slightly balding.
Tonight, Dimension X has presented The Man in the Moon, an original story by George Lefferts. Featured players were Louis Van Rooten as Henry Timken and Santos Ortega as Wade. Your narrator was Norman Rose. Music by Albert Berman, engineer Bill Chambers. Dimension X is produced by Van Woodward and directed by Edward King.
Next week, a strange and thrilling story of the foreign underground, of a brilliant young scientist and his wife whose only chance for escape from the secret police lay in a world that is beyond infinity, the world of...
Dimension X.
I thought that I had listened to every Dimension X story there was, but I was surprised to find this one this week. It is brand new to me, and I was pleasantly surprised by how good it was. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. This story was written by George Lefferts. He was an American writer, producer, playwright, poet, director of television dramas, motion pictures, radio dramas, and socially conscious documentaries. Quite the career. His original plays for radio, films for television, and stories won 3 Emmy Awards and 2 Golden Globes. Now that is impressive. Lefferts worked as a columnist for the New York Observer and was twice winner of the New England Press Association Award for Best Weekly Newspaper Column in America. Now that is something. Lefferts taught screenwriting at Johns Hopkins and Rutgers Universities. He was also a member of the American Medical Writers Association. Was there anything he couldn't do? He passed away in Leonia, New Jersey on April 18th, 2018, at the age of 96. How about that?
As read by Amazing Stories, read by amazing people.
This time on As Read By, we have an AI-generated story. I asked Google's Gemini to write a 3-minute science fiction story about a fight between a turtle and an alien. This is what it came up with. The shell-shocked turtle, Gemini, ducked as another blast of plasma whizzed over its head, scorching an already charred Earth. His opponent, a hulking insectoid named Xylar, screeched in frustration. Xylar had expected this planet's inhabitants to be easy prey, but Gemini, despite his slow, deliberate movements, was proving a formidable challenge. Gemini wasn't your average turtle. He was the last of the ancient Terrapin warriors, a genetically modified breed designed to protect Earth from extraterrestrial threats. Xylar, a scout for the voracious Korloff swarm, had stumbled upon Earth while charting new feeding grounds. Xylar lunged, his razor-sharp mandibles snapping. Gemini rolled aside, the movement surprisingly swift for his bulky frame. He retaliated with a swipe of his plasma-edged katana, a weapon passed down through generations of Terrapin warriors. The blade sliced through the air, narrowly missing Xylar's chitinous armor. The two grappled, Xylar's superior strength countered by Gemini's centuries of combat experience. They rolled across the battlefield, a whirlwind of snapping claws, flashing blades, and hissing energy blasts. Gemini, using his low center of gravity, managed to flip Xylar onto his back. The insectoid scrambled helplessly, his 6 legs flailing in the air. Gemini pressed his advantage, pinning Xylar's limbs with his own considerable weight. He raised his katana, the blade glowing an ominous blue. Xylar screeched, his multifaceted eyes wide with fear. "Yield," Gemini boomed, his voice amplified by his helmet's vocabulator. "Leave this planet and never return." Xylar hesitated, his pride battling his instinct for self-preservation. Then, with a series of clicks and whirs, he emitted a high-pitched shriek, a signal for surrender. Gemini stepped back, allowing Xylar to right himself. The insectoid, battered and bruised, scuttled back to his ship, leaving Gemini alone on the battlefield. As the alien vessel disappeared into the vastness of space, Gemini deactivated his katana. The battle had been won, but the war, he knew, had just begun. The Korloff swarm would be back, and next time they would come in force. But Gemini would be ready. That is what Google Gemini created for us. That was episode number 669, and it was out there. I hope that you enjoyed today's show and want to come back for a bit more. Why? Because that is what we do. If you want to follow the podcast or the blog, head to ronsamazingstories.com. There you will find any of the links I mentioned and how to contact us. Do you want to help the show? The best thing you can do is to tell your friends all about it, and please leave reviews or feedback wherever you listen. Clicking that follow or like button helps us grow. Thank you for listening, and I hope you come again to find out what are Ron's Amazing Stories.
All of the vintage audio used in the podcast is believed to be in the public domain. Ron's Amazing Stories does not own the rights to any of the old-time radio used here. If you hold the rights to any of the shows played, please contact us immediately at ronsamazingstories.com.